Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight for our Village of Alsip committee meeting. Today is October 13th, 2020, and we'll call this meeting order at 7:32. Can you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mayor Ryan. Trustee Dalzell?
Here.
Trustee Zielinski?
Here.
Trustee Juarez? Here. Trustee McLaughlin?
Here.
Trustee Murphy?
Here.
Trustee Navas Esparza?
Here.
Mayor Ryan?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Trustees, before we start our reports, we do have a presentation this evening on behalf of the Public Work Committee, and I'd like to ask if Emily Ocallo is how we, pardon? Ocalau. Thank you. I apologize, Emily. Emily Ocalau, make a presentation. Trustee Wars, do you want to introduce her? What you have on your agenda, please?
We have a presentation by Emily Ocalau from Chicago Regional Tree Initiative and Morton Arboretum on a grant opportunity for the boat launch to increase green infrastructure in the Little Calumet River watershed.
You know what?
Could we hand her a mic, please? Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, we've got some cordless ones, Emily. Microphones. We actually, although you can't see you on our camera, there's something faced at us. We can certainly appreciate what you're showing us on TV here.
Sorry, so that you'd like me to face which way?
That's the only thing I was going to tell you is you got to keep the mic a little closer to your mouth.
A little closer. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Great. All right. So thank you for having me. My name is Emily Ocalau. I am with the Chicago Region Trees Initiative based at the Morton Arboretum. And I have been working with Mike in Public Works on a grant that we applied for and that we actually received. So we're here tonight to discuss that. The title of the grant, as I submitted it, was Increasing Green Infrastructure in the Little Calumet River Watershed. And then for tonight, I subtitled it A Collaborative Project to Remove Pavement. So this is essentially a grant for Alsip. We applied for this grant on behalf of Alsip. This is something that we do regularly in my group. We apply for grants to improve trees, green infrastructure, things like that, tree canopy throughout the region. And so and I'll talk a little bit about this later about why we chose Alsip, but essentially we did, and we thought that it would be a great site for this type of project. So as we talk about this grant, there's a few acronyms. The GLRI, which is the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative. It is funding through the federal government. I think it's actually through the Forest Service, the USDA Forest Service. And then I thought for a minute maybe it was the EPA, but I actually think it's the Forest Service, so I apologize for not having that completely clear. It is federal funding, though, and GLRI is the funder. MWRD, most of you are most likely familiar with that, the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. So they are actually the landowner. Alsip has a lease on this property. They are the landowner. They are completely okay with it. We've gotten approval from them in writing, so they fully support this project. CRTI is us, the Chicago Region Trees Initiative, and Green Corps Chicago is another one of our big partners in this grant. They will be doing the actual installation of the trees and the green infrastructure. We'll be hiring them to do that. So in short, I don't know if you can see that, $260,000 is over $260,000 is awarded for this grant. This work is going to be mostly contracted. I am going to put Mike to work, though. Don't worry. There's going to be some work on his part. I will also have some work to do. Becky probably will also have some work to do. But essentially, we'll be removing a parking lot that's currently underused and then installing some green infrastructure. So creating a park that also has some great properties, such as water retention and improving native ecosystem for wildlife, for other trees, other plants, and ensuring that water is retained on site instead of going straight into the Little Calumet. And that's essentially the purpose of this grant, is to help rehab some of the waterways around Chicago, around the Great Lakes, actually, all of the Great Lakes. And that's why we applied for this, is because that parking lot is essentially runoff straight into the Little Calumet. And by putting green infrastructure in, we are preventing that runoff. and preventing that pollution and those toxins from getting into that waterway. And then also as part of the grant, we'll be doing some maintenance training, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So the location is here at the Alsip boat ramp. Most likely you're all familiar with it. If you're not, that's the relative location relative to the rest of Alsip. And then if we zoom in, we can see that the area that we're targeting is this area that's outlined in yellow. So it is the east side of the sort of the southeast side of that parking lot, and then this area as well, which is right by the little house there, the little area. We're going to be doing some plantings in there as well. So I'm going to take a minute really quickly to introduce us and our group, CRTI. We are a partner-based institution in the sense that we work with over 200 partners in the region. MWRD is one of our key partners. We are a nonprofit, and we don't charge for anything that we do. So we just try to bring resources to communities to try to help them to be better managers, better stewards of their trees. And that's how I know Mike. We have been doing quite a few projects with Alsip and with Mike related to the trees in Alsip. And so that's where that history comes in. We believe that trees are critical to people having happy lives. I don't know how many of you have been I know I've been working from home since like March, and being able to go outside and take walks is like the one thing that I have. And so being in areas where there are a lot of trees, where it's really green, has been really helpful since March. So that's been really outlined. But, we know that trees are really helpful to people. They make us live healthier, happier lives and to be more productive. And so we really, at CRTI, we work really hard to try and improve tree conditions throughout the region. And then why trees? Because they have a number of benefits. Like I said, they make us happier, they make us healthier, they make us, they make kids behave better, actually. They do better in school when they have trees outside their windows. It makes our communities, it improves real estate capacity in communities. It reduces our summertime energy use. They take in pollution, they take in toxins. And then down here also is the stormwater, so they reduce runoff, they intercept stormwater. And those are things that are relevant to tonight, although the other ones are as well, just to Alsip as a community. So at CRTI, we use data. We do tree inventories. We use LIDAR, which is a form of remote sensing to try to get an idea of, what the tree conditions are in the region. And then we do some tree census, and then we also look at the community, and especially the most vulnerable populations. So who are the people who would benefit the most from having good tree canopy cover? So people who have high rates of asthma, right? Areas where there's really high rates of asthma. Areas where, there might be a lot of crime, and they could really benefit from areas that are calming and soothing. And so we try to look at areas where there are few trees, and there are these other sort of markers of vulnerable populations, and that's where we understand that we can have the biggest impact. So a really easy way to explain this is out by O'Hare, right? There's all that sort of pollution from all those planes, and there are not a lot of trees because big trees and airplanes don't really mix. And so how can we put trees in those areas to try and improve that air quality a little bit so that people can have a more fruitful life even though they live close to O'Hare? What are the neighborhoods that we can target? And so, that's why we looked at Alsip. So we do this data for the entire region, the entire 7 counties around Chicago. We look at this data. And we have these metrics for every single community. There's 284 communities around in the 7 counties surrounding Chicago. And we have these metrics for every single community and then the counties. So Alsip is over here on the left. These are your numbers. And then this is Cook County. So this is the average for Cook County. So in Alsip, you have 18% canopy cover. The latest data says that the canopy cover that you want to strive for is 40% in a community to really get those good effects. So you guys do have some work to do. It's okay. Everybody does. Don't worry. But the average in Cook County is 28%. And, again, that's okay. I'm not here to tell you that you're doing bad things. I'm just here to say, that there is work that can be done. And that's why we have been looking at Alsip as a place that we know that we can make a significant impact. On the plus side, you have something called plantable space. You have 54% plantable space, which means that 54% of your community is area in which we actually can plant trees to try and improve that tree canopy cover and make some strides in those good benefits that they provide. It's a little bit of a misnomer because in that plantable space, there are things like golf courses, and we're obviously not going to fill the entire golf course with trees, right? So that plantable space is just areas that have not been paved. And then we do break it down. So we can see in Alsip that residential areas also, so people's backyards, are good areas to plant trees. But, you know, I have a backyard, and my kid likes to run around in my backyard, and I'm not going to fill it completely with trees because I want to be able to, like, you know, go out there and play ball and do things and set up a little pool and whatever else in the summer. So it's not that we're asking, you know, communities or encouraging communities to fill 100% of their plantable space. But we're just saying, like, where are the opportunities? And let's start to look at that. So that's why we sort of started this relationship with Alsip in the first place. And then I'll talk a little bit more about why we also continued it. But if we look at the heat map, so this is, you know, these are the areas where we have canopy gaps. So the green represents trees, the white represents areas where there's no trees. And then if you overlay it with the heat map, with the dark red areas being the areas that are the warmest, so the warmest average daily temperature in the summer, it's a pretty perfect overlay. So we know that, you know, it's a lot hotter when there are fewer trees and there's less shade. And so the boat ramp is, I think, in here. This is the channel for the river, is this sort of line that goes here, and then the boat ramp is like somewhere in there. And so we can see that it's kind of orangish, and so it can have an impact. And then, like I said, we have been working with Alsip for the last few years, and we've been doing it quite successfully. Alsip has received at least one grant, maybe two from us, 2 grants. So they've planted trees on 2 occasions with us, and it's worked really well because working with Mike has been really successful and easy. Becky's been great, and in my meetings with the mayor, that's been great too. And that makes us happy to do that, right? That makes us happy to be able to work in a community that makes it easy for us to do our work. And that's why you guys were just great candidates for this grant. Okay, so moving on to the grant. Sorry, that's a lot smaller. Hopefully you can read that. Essentially, over the next few weeks until about the end of the year, we'll be doing a lot of paperwork, signing agreements. I actually have not gotten the paperwork back from the federal government because that is its own pace of, like, the freight train just sort of slowly clanging along. And so that will come eventually, and we will eventually get that turned around. But it's coming and it's fine. And then, you know, we'll be signing paperwork as well with Alsip and just sort of getting all that started. And then in January and February, we can start to discuss removing the parking lot, go out to bid. We can also talk about the planting plans. So what exactly do we want to put in? What exactly type of green infrastructure would make sense for that site? What does the village want to see, you know, as a final product for that site? How does it want to be used? And then we can break ground and actually remove the parking lot in the spring. And then in April through June, we'll be planting the trees. We'll be installing the GI installation and putting in some native plugs right along the river. It's a little bit of technical language. I'm happy to explain it further, whoever wants to geek out on it. And then 2022, so after June of 2021 and into 2022, we're really going to focus on maintenance. So the first year after planting green infrastructure, it's really important to maintain it and to see what has worked and what hasn't, and then to go in and sort of fix that and restore that so that, you know, it's set up for long-term success. And that's included in the grant. So that maintenance in that first year is included in the grant. And then also included in the grant is maintenance training. So green infrastructure maintenance is different from, you know, maintenance of sort of turf or other types of landscaping. We can see this in things like, you know, rain gardens or you know, bioswales, if you've seen any of those. They certainly look different, and to maintain those requires a different type of skill than just regular landscaping, and we know that. And so I am certified in green infrastructure maintenance training, or actually I'm certified in green infrastructure maintenance, and I will be taking that training and doing a very condensed version of it over the course of the 2 years of the grant, and doing that a couple times for not just Alsip, so not just, you know, Mike and the people who are going to be responsible for maintaining this space, but also you know, other groups in the area that are interested in gaining that skill. So we did this training back in March. We did our first one, and we found that, you know, there are a number of individuals who wanted to participate in native landscape maintenance, and they came to our training because they felt like it gave them an edge over other applicants who are looking for jobs because they know how to maintain these very specific systems. And so we've put money into the grant to actually teach that maintenance training so that Alsip will be ready to go and you'll know what to do to maintain this site. And then beyond that, one of the things that we put into the grant also is that we are going to be working with Coca-Cola, and we've also spoken to one other company that was interested in contributing, and so we want to see how much further we can take that. So, are there other community groups? Are there other businesses? Who else in Alsip wants to participate in this? And what can we do to contribute to that? So CRTI is proposing that we create a campaign and that we have an internal PR team and that we work with the village to develop materials to sort of market this idea out to the community and say, hey, we're going to be doing this thing. Who wants to participate? Who wants to join? Does anybody want to donate? Whatever, to try to augment this project and sort of make it its best self. And so, we're thinking if we can give it a name, create a flyer, create a website even, a landing page people can go to and say, like, yes, I want to participate, I want to contribute to this, I want to be a part of this, and then see what we can do. That is my contact info. I did not bring any cards because I don't go anywhere anymore for work. Everything's remote. And I just completely forgot. That's the truth. But my information is right there, and Mike always knows how to get a hold of me anyway. So, any questions?
Emily, great job on the presentation.
Thank you
very much. And more importantly, is thank you for showing interest in our community. I know when we met with you a few months ago at the site, you had some wonderful ideas on how this place is going to look. Most of the questions you answered for me here, I was just scratching a few out as we're going along. So there's no additional cost to us, number one, right?
No. So there are costs that were built into the grant. So this is, I think it's your tree planting budget. I think that we are going to be using as match. So
Gotcha.
because it's a federal grant, we have to put things as match, but it's no additional budget item or anything like that.
Right. The other, I may have some potential participants because Becky and I speak to different businesses here occasionally who do show interest and want to be more community engaged. So certainly, Beck will talk about that. I don't want to use a name on camera because obviously obligate these guys.
Yeah.
Is this going to be open to the public?
That's my next question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where who would like monitor that? I guess would be the question.
That would be Public Works. As of right now, it is gated.
Do you want to?
Of course, that east lot does have gate around
Yes.
it, and we would be able to lock that up at the end of each and every day.
So we can, and certainly, Mike, they don't have to be supervised, just like any park or anything like that.
Correct.
But we can do it in that nature.
Yeah, we can make sure that it's closed and locked at night.
Great. And then, and I think you answered my other question too, but just to confirm, who is responsible for the maintenance then too, Emily? At Public Works?
That will be Public Works as well.
Gotcha. Okay. I just want to make sure that we're all, we understand what's expected, that's all.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. And, that's something that I actually asked Mike when we were sort of building the idea for this project is how would this be maintained? And he told me that the site is already maintained by Public Works, and so it would be a question of maintaining it differently.
Sure.
Right, but that's already part of the scope of work of Public Works.
So we're going to put in like maintenance-free trees, Emily, and things like that.
Well,
Everything's going to be an
there is
evergreen.
no such thing as a maintenance-free tree unless you want to live in a wild forest in which trees do come down,
Yeah.
because that is just part of, part of life. Yeah, right. But the other thing that actually, to your point about the businesses who might want to participate, I want to make clear that we're proposing to have a campaign, but we really want that to be driven by Alsip, right? We're proposing to like I have PR staff that I can call on, but we really want that to be driven by you, so that it's something that makes sense for the community. We'll give support in any way we can, but we really would want that to be driven by you. Yep.
Sounds good. Anybody else have a question? Emily, then thanks again for coming out tonight to talk
thank
with
you so much
us.
for having
and
me.
Certainly we'll be in touch. And if you need anything, please reach out. Let us know.
Great, thank you so much.
You too.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So we'll move forward with the rest of our meeting then. We'll start with officers' reports, starting with mine. I want to let everybody know our building commissioner, he's been excused for a few days. He's taking care of some business. When he comes back to work, I did get a note from a couple of residents, in case they were watching on our video that we tape here, that they had some concerns about display lights in windows. They're, sometimes those neon type of things, like after hours. And we do have an ordinance that says you're supposed to turn those off after hours. Your lights can be lit up for your business, but sometimes the display lights are unnecessary. So I'll go over that with Roger when he gets back in the office and stuff then too.
I know there's been a number of complaints too about flashing lights after
That's what I'm
hours.
talking about,
Okay.
yeah. And those, I had to go back, I really look at the definition of display lights, and that's what they're talking about. It's stuff inside the windows, not necessarily their signage, but it's stuff in the windows that just looks obnoxious and there's nobody there and stuff then too, so.
Yes, I know we've had a recurring incidents with a business located on Pulaski.
Oh, I haven't looking at one on Cicero right now, so.
Okay.
But Roger and I'll go over it when he gets back to the office and stuff then too, so. Next, I had, yesterday, we were able to proofread our 2020 fall-winter newsletter. It looks great, and Crossmark always does a really nice job. Becky got that over to them. They're making some final edits right now and so forth, but that's going to be released soon. And then for some of the folks, again, that watch these videos, we will be issuing the, we had to go green because Worth Township kind of got in front of us with this idea, but every year how we put out those
The flyers for the
flyers,
windows
there
for
you go,
Halloween.
thank you, I wish I had a word. But those flyers with the self-stick tape that you can put in your front door to say that you're participating in Halloween this year, Worth Township went with green for yes, orange for no. We're just going to put out green ones, period. If you're in, put a green one up and stuff then too. So, but we've got that in there, Becky, and that, so we're expecting those to be released in about a week or so that you get them in time for Halloween, no problem. And that's all I have for this evening. Clerk's report?
Thank you, Mayor Ryan. Presentation of the September 2020 FOIA report. There were 25 requests last month. I also went ahead and put together a proposed meeting schedule for next year. I know we're getting close to the holidays, and it's kind of scary to say. There are 4 months that have 5 Mondays, and that would be March, May, August, and November. In particular, the reason May 24th was highlighted is because there are 5 Mondays in the month of May. The final meeting normally would be the last Monday. However, that happens to be Memorial Day, so that's why they're kind of compacted. And I also highlighted the board meeting for July 6th. That is also a Tuesday. 4th of July falls on a Sunday, and federally they're recognizing it on Monday the 5th, so that's why that was pushed back to Tuesday. So any comments, concerns, I don't know if we'll go to shortened summer schedules next year or not, but at least we can always amend it, but I wanted to put it out there earlier than later. And then there's presentation and approval of the May 28th, 2019 committee meeting minutes and presentation and approval of the October 28th, 2019 committee meeting minutes. And that is all, Mayor Ryan.
All right.
I had a question. Is there a reason why we have the 2019 meeting? Did we skip some, or?
There were some that were missed when they were being completed, so we've gone back and found them.
So how far do they go back?
I would have to go back out onto the website and go into the files to verify. I
Okay.
can send you an email on that if you'd like.
Okay.
Next, we have the public forum. Anyone in the audience wish to address the board this evening? Nobody? Then we get the standing committee reports, Finance and IT, Trustee McGlowan.
Next week, I will have the usual list of payroll and accounts payable for approval, and that's all I have, Mayor.
All right. And the Fire Committee, Trustee Murphy.
There is no official report. However, I did talk to Chief Zazinski. We met on Wednesday. We stuffed some bags for the open house, and he will have a report next week as to how that went. I could not attend that, so he will be back for that, and that's all I have.
All right. Next, we have the Police and Traffic Safety, Trustee Dalzell.
Well, the presentation of the Police Department's September 2020 monthly activity report. Then there's the Alsip Police Department's K9 Knox has received a bullet and stab protective vest thanks to the charitable donation from a nonprofit organization, Vested Interest in Canines. Canine Knox's vest was sponsored by Christine Scalise of Capri Glass in Coropolis, Pennsylvania, and embroidered with the sentiment honoring those who served and sacrificed. And lastly, just a reminder that the Halloween hours are between 1 p.m. and 6 p.m. And Chief, did you have anything?
Yes, I have one follow-up. Trustee Zelinski had asked me about some issues going on in our storage facilities, so rather than just address his concern, I just wanted to advise you all that over the past week and a half, 2 weeks, we've had several incidences at our storage facilities, mainly lockers being broken into. As you know, we have 5 facilities in town, and it's obviously a relatively easy target. Most of those facilities are in areas that back up to desolate areas like wooded areas and train tracks and things like that. So we've had detectives out working night shift, overnight shift, and late last week they developed a suspect in those. Another issue that we're running into is that storage facilities don't want to release renters' names to us. So they've been attempting to make contact with the renters, and the other issue is when they don't make contact with them, we don't know what's taken out of them. So it's hard, makes it harder to track stuff down. And lastly but not least, none of these facilities have cameras, so it makes it even more challenging.
Thank you, Chief.
So beware when you use one.
Right. Right now it's the season. It looks like the new trend, and someone's pretty good at it. So, but like I said, hopefully within the next couple of weeks we'll be able to close those successfully.
All right, thank you, Chief. Next, we have the Public Work and Boat Launch. Trustee Juarez.
I have a presentation of the Public Works October 2020 monthly activity report, and I'll just let everyone know that the boat launch does close on November 1st. That's all, Mayor.
All right. Next, we have the Sewer and Water Report. Trustee Nava-Esparza.
I have the request to approve an addendum for the improvement of Route 83 at Tinley Creek Water Main Replacement, where this agreement extends the term of construction to start within 6 years of its original agreement with the village and IDOT, signed in 2018. That's all I have, Mayor.
All right. Thank you. Next, Building and Health. Trustee Zelinski.
No report this evening, Mayor.
Thank you. Next, Human Resource and Insurance. Trustee Murphy.
There is no report posted, but I just did want to update everyone on a few department updates. As far as hiring goes, Public Works have now selected a candidate for a part-time maintenance position, and this candidate started on October 1st. The Water Department has a candidate pending for the second driver laborer position. For the clerical position, they offered a candidate currently waiting for her background to clear. The Finance Department, they've had a total of 5 applicants. The mayor and Shanae have interviewed one candidate, of whom we will ask to schedule a second round of interviews with Trustee McLaughlin and Karen Bonema this week.
Tomorrow.
Oh, great. We have a upcoming interview with a second candidate on Wednesday. Economic Development Intern, the candidate we officially offered declined the position. The job has been reposted to attract more applicants, posted on surrounding college online job boards and Handshake. Under insurance, we should be receiving some preliminary numbers for BCBS any day now, and we'll keep you posted on that. A safety meeting was held on the 30th of September with the department heads. We reviewed COVID precautions and PPE inventory. In addition, we reviewed year-to-date claims reports to target higher occurrences within each department to target or type of injury so that we can reinforce training initiatives. And that was from Shanae. And that's all I have, sir.
Trustee Murphy, could you forward a copy of that to
Yes.
the clerk's office so we can get it correct?
Sure.
Thank you. I lost room to write when I was making my notes.
You just kept going and going.
Thank you.
Special committee reports, economic development, trustee Nava Esparza.
And just the updates, one potential business reached out to me, and I connected that business with Roger. They had questions about permitted uses. And then also just today, it was announced in regards to the census that the Supreme Court ruled that the census count can end early. So I'm not sure if that's today or what is the exact date. So I think maybe tomorrow we should know what the final date is for census count completion. And our census response rate is at 75.3%. And that's all I have.
Very nice.
All right. Just before the meeting, I exchanged an email with the Plan Zoning Commission Chairman, Stan Graycheck, regarding Firewaters property, and we need to approve a resolution for that re-subdivision because we're consolidating 3 pins on that. So they're going to be setting that up probably October 21st. He's going to file that with the clerk's office for a meeting yet and stuff, but as soon as we get that done, I'm going to bring that back to the board and get that approved because they want to start funding this account already, and we're trying to get all the entities bureaucratically, as Emily said, whether it's IDOT, MWRD, I'm trying to get everybody moving here and stuff. So I've been on this project every day just about for the last week or two. So we're going to try and get that scheduled with economic development. We'll get that taken care of. They want to get shovels in the ground, start building that building. So
Okay, thank you.
next, we had Village Properties, Trustee McGlowan.
I have no official report this evening. However, we have received a request from the residents at the complexes wanting the clubhouses reopened. But before we take steps along those lines, I thought it would be a good idea to discuss it. One of the biggest issues that we have with the clubhouses and potential reopening is they are not staffed. So we don't have the ability to monitor ins and outs, or are people wearing their masks, are they social distancing, and at the same time, without knowing these things, we're obligated under the CDC guidelines to be sanitizing on a regular basis. So
Who's going to be doing that?
well, and so that's where the hard part comes in. So I'm looking for opinion. Like, Monica, you're on the committee. What do you think?
I don't think it should be open because there is nobody to do that. Like, even if you go to a restaurant or a clothing store, once you change, to try your clothes on and come out, someone goes in right behind you to wipe everything down. Mm-hmm. So, and there's no one to do that for them.
Right, and I don't know, especially if we don't know who's in there when, even if it is regular business hours.
And wasn't it not being kept clean in the first place?
There were some times where groups did not clean up after themselves, which is why we prohibited parties. However, I know they do enjoy their bingo, but they have not been able to have since all of this started.
Can't, what's the name of the company? Zeller? Zeller, can't they do it? Can't they hire someone to do it? Can they oversee that?
They could, but we'd have to pay for it. Payroll is
And we still got the guidelines with regards to the percentage of capacities. So you're going to need somebody to sit there and monitor that as well.
Yeah, right, because, with capacity, they would be limited at 50 people.
I don't think that they get 50, because it's also a percentage of the,
Pretty small.
right? I don't think that they can get 50. It's a percentage of what the capacities are.
It's 50%. So I think, at least the Heritage 2 clubhouse would hold 100 people. Heritage 1, though, right, they would have to be considerably smaller. And Heritage 1 definitely does not have a lot of room for spacing out. But I didn't know maybe if we would want to consider maybe set 2-hour blocks on certain days of the week where it's normal working hours, and then, like I said, the Xyler staff can go in after that set 2 hours and go clean up.
Well, that's what my question would be, is like, what do they want to use it for? Or, is it bingo, or, because then if it's something planned ahead, then the cleaning crew can go in afterwards, and then for the rest of the week, it's not used, for example? So maybe just more details in regards to use.
Reserve parties.
Oh.
Reservation only, so that you could schedule a cleaning crew to come in afterwards and sanitize and wipe stuff down and, make sure that at least the bathrooms are cleaned and
Right.
Customer contact areas, showing my customer, anything that would be touched would be wiped down, tables and sanitized and that kind of thing. Put it that way, and then have Xyler schedule a cleaning crew to go in there, and we pay them.
I would agree, and I would agree with what both you trustees were saying as well, that if you're doing this during regular hours where they can still get the maintenance people in there before they go home at 4:30 or whatever, they can disinfect the place. Say they're having a bingo game or something like that, they can disinfect such afterward. And this isn't a matter where you have to put this for like a board vote or something like that. This is just by consensus that we can do that.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
But, it just, it sounds like the committee's in favor of doing something like this, and they have to kind of self-police themselves anyway. They're only supposed to have 50 people in the room with proper social distancing,
You could also put other guidelines in there that you can't have anyone in there outside other than people who work there and residents.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that they do have a lot of guests, they do have a lot of kids coming over, and that kind of thing, so.
My concern is if Xyler wasn't keeping it clean in the first place, who's going to police and monitor that they are sanitizing and keeping it clean when and
They
if
have
you
to,
put
that's
this?
they're under contract,
I
they should be
understand
doing
that,
that.
but they weren't doing it.
Well, we could,
Says who?
It was brought up. Yeah, it was brought up.
Is it, we had instances, I don't know that we can blame Xyler per se, but groups having parties and then
wasn't
not
cleaned up.
cleaning up after
Oh,
themselves.
no, but
Yeah.
it's a clean facility.
And there's nobody there.
Yeah.
You can't, it's not Xyler. Xyler cleans up every single day, but not on the weekends. It's not, residents have their own key to go in there whenever they want to.
oh boy.
No, that's been the rule forever. You can use that clubhouse.
So I don't think.
It's just that we haven't been allowing groups settings, and now that you're in phase 4 only says that you need to practice proper social distancing. If you can go into restaurants and everywhere else and have 6 people at a table, how is this any different?
Yeah.
Obviously, it's still going to be the choice of the participant if they want to put themselves in that situation. If you're a person that doesn't like being indoors with a group of people, that's your choice. But I just didn't, and I appreciate Trustee McGlohorn bringing this up, because I have been getting calls at my office, and I've been sharing some with her. She's the chairperson for that committee, for people wanting to use that clubhouse again, and they've been out for almost 6 months.
So are bingos typically on weekends?
No, they're during the week, and it's, they schedule those like after lunch, more or less, so I might have it twice a week or
So
something
then
like
having
that.
Xyler come in after said bingo
Yeah.
to clean it up wouldn't be an issue.
I'll talk with the management, and Becky, you're there almost every morning. Let's talk with them, let's figure out a schedule and find out what's an appropriate schedule for them to use the facilities, and then we can schedule the cleaning to follow such then too. So here's your window, here's when you can use these facilities, and we know we're covering the opportunity to maintain it after which.
CDC says you have to have the bathrooms cleaned every 2 hours.
2 hours, right.
So
Which-
to Trustee Murphy's point of only giving them a 2-hour window.
Right. If we opened it up, say, from like 1 to 3 on Wednesday for bingo.
Is that how long
Then-
bingo typically is, 2 hours?
Pretty much. I don't know. I haven't been there, but,
But-
I'm going to say, I don't know how long a bingo thing takes, but it could be more than 2 hours to sit there, that's for sure.
But the staff leaves at 4.
That's what I'm saying. So if we schedule to accommodate, if this wraps up by 3:30, they get a half an hour to clean up when they get done. All right? All right.
One more thing, Mayor. I know you brought it up, so I'm going to just go with it. You had said Becky's there every morning. We had talked about an RFP to look for a new management company for Zeiler. And why is it that we still have village employees that are over there every day?
She assists the property manager. She assists Roger every day, and that's been that case for the last,
And
even when
why is-
Erica did it, this goes back to 2016 or so, yeah.
But why is Roger there? Why is Becky there? Why is everybody there from the village if we have a management company?
It's not everybody, it's just Becky. Roger has to stick his head in the door as our liaison between the village and the help there, and that's why we're not in a position to make that, even to have that conversation right now, so. I don't
We had
wanna-
the conversation before, and being that this is a committee meeting, I figured I'd
What's your
bring it up.
recommendation?
Well, I thought we were going out to RFP for this.
We're working on it. I mean, there's a lot to be said about that, too, like how much responsibility they should have and so forth, that, too. We're also managing all of our assets over there right now. We're trying to tally up what exactly all the equipment is. Are we going to make them buy all that equipment off us, or are we going to take it back? That kind of thing, yeah, too. I mean, that's a conversation I don't want to have it on camera right now. I'd rather put it on paper. And I'm trudging through this. I mean, we're kind of, we're doing the best we can here.
I mean, we did authorize the attorney to work on drafting the formal RFP documents, and we haven't gotten those back yet.
That, too.
I mean, because it is very detailed.
Well, since that meeting, we just haven't heard anything, so I was just wondering where the state was on that.
I can tell you that before even this attorney, the last attorney struggled with the same matters. Didn't Sue Glover struggle with this? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So this isn't an overnight fix, that's for sure.
And personally, at least, I mean, in my opinion, the existing contract is sorely lacking in details, and we want something more encompassing and something that'll bring both complexes under the same umbrella. We don't want one complex run one way and the other complex run a different way.
In the meantime, we're not judging Zeiler. They're doing a good job managing, but it's always a good practice to, obviously put out RFPs from time to time, and they're working without a contract right now, and we haven't had any real issues with them as far as their management skills are concerned, but it's always good practice to go RFP. That's a fair way of doing business, I think. Any other, trustee, anything else from Village Properties?
Was there going to be a consensus on that?
Back to the hours.
Sure, we can do a consensus on that, sure. Go ahead, trustee Evan Glowhorn.
Well, like you said, I mean, we do potentially need, some additional information, at least in terms of days.
Yeah.
I mean, do we, just open it one day a week for bingo at 50% capacity or a maximum of 50 people? 2-hour
Whichever's
limit. Because I know we would also have to consider creating signage
Oh,
at the
yeah.
entrances for both, and we would also need to purchase basically hand sanitizer stands so that
How about
everybody
this? How
can-
about, let's do a consensus next week when we meet next Monday, because this way I can put something together with Zeiler, and this way I can propose something to the board, and everybody's comfortable with the schedule and all that kind of stuff then too. Here's the rules that we want to adopt, at least for the time being, until we get to phase 5. Okay?
But, yeah, then say maximum, though, I think, 2-hour block.
Yeah, we went
Set
6
times
We just did
and-
6 months. Another week won't be a big deal.
Right.
Well, and also we want to be definitive about what the request is.
Exactly. Right.
But weekdays only, we're not going to staff it on the
No,
weekend.
it's just, and I had kind of suggested that to some of the folks that had called me. I says, listen, you guys don't have games on the weekend. No. I said, well, it's going to be during the day when we have staff available to maintain the place and so forth then too. So I'll get an outline for everybody and we'll talk about it next week. All right. Ordinance and legislation, trustee Zelinski.
It shows the agenda tonight, but there was a discussion at the last meeting that was tabled until tonight, but again, it's not on the agenda, so are we revisiting that this evening?
That was your request.
Yeah, it was, but
It doesn't have to be.
I don't know if anybody removed it from the...
Just discuss anything at a committee.
Okay, well, then I guess we could bring it back, the ordinance that was put on last week. on the agenda?
Go ahead.
We can go up for a discussion. Everybody knows what was in the ordinance?
Does anyone
All
have,
the trustees are aware?
if it wasn't in the packet, probably no one's looking at this right now.
Okay. So,
But it was in the packet last week.
right, it was. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody was properly informed before we,
Would you like me to run and make copies?
you could. And
Sure.
make a hard copy
Okay.
for everybody, that would be nice.
I got your note too, but I got to wait till the clerk comes back. But I'll certainly introduce you when I get done here. I didn't. Your son wanted to address us tonight? Okay. You know what? When the clerk comes back, let me introduce you then, because I want to make sure everybody's sitting here then. Okay. All right.
You found your paper clips.
Yeah, they magically appeared.
Can I have one, please?
Sure.
Thank you, ma'am.
Actually, you can take the whole thing, because there's another one here.
Stick it right here.
Sure. This is all mine. It came from my door.
Thank you.
Spring cleaning
Okay.
in October.
You know, folks, before we start this discussion, I just got a note, there was a young man in the audience and that wanted to address us and missed his opportunity under a public forum. If no one minds, why don't you come up, tilt that mic down so you can speak into that? No, there you go. And if you would, please, can you introduce yourself? Can you say your name, please?
My name is Isaiah Tovar.
Okay. Nice to meet you, Mr. Tovar.
I have a question.
Sure.
Why only 5 hours for trick-or-treating?
You know what? Some of the, and just to be clear, everybody, why only 5 hours for trick-or-treating? I actually did participate in a survey with all the other, like, surrounding suburbs, and everyone's got about the same window, right around 5 hours. Some folks went like 2 till 7, some went, even a little bit later, and our police chief recommended that he wanted to kind of like make it more of an afternoon event. We felt on a Saturday, I agreed, I thought that was fair to say that it should be like a, almost a daylight event, where, in other words, right at 6:30 is when it starts getting dark right now then too. We thought it'd be safe for the kids to be out, in the daylight, because it is a Saturday. Obviously, most of the time when you go for Halloween, it's during the week, and we're kind of stuck, having the kids trick or treat at night, because you don't have a choice. You're at school during the day and stuff like that. But because it's a Saturday, we felt it was a good safe window, meaning 1 till 6. We thought that was a good time to have all the kids out there. So hopefully everybody enjoys themselves and everything, but we were kind of looking at it from a safety perspective, and the fact that it was a Saturday, that all the kids can do what they had to do in daylight hours, more or less, okay? And hopefully the weather holds out. Hopefully it doesn't rain or anything like that then, too, okay? But what was your thought? You came up, what was your idea?
I thought we can have 6 more hours.
You want to go 6 more, yeah. Good luck with that, you know, I mean, but, no,
A two-day event.
Yeah, no, I appreciate
What would your
you.
dentist say?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Mr. Trustee Murphy. But, no, it's a great question, and I'm glad you came up to meet with us and pose your question and stuff, then, too, So, I know you're on a computer all day long, right? Like everybody, yeah. Send me an email if you like. I'm good at that. I'll send you back a response and stuff then, too. But, no, thanks for coming up, and, again, the chief felt that was good, safe hours to host the event. And a lot of other communities are going to be doing the same thing. Everybody was off by an hour or so here and there, but we thought 1 to 6 was a good time, okay? Okay, thanks much.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, trustee.
Okay, obviously, this was a change from the previous ordinance that was proposed. Just had a question. Mayor, why did you feel that, or why did you want to decrease the salary adjustment in this new one down from $10,000 to $5,000 instead of just the cost of living raise?
You know what? Let's put it this way: based on the comments that were made, or the body language by the board, let's put it this way: I only vote in the event of a tie. So if the board wishes to adjust any compensation, whether it's for the mayor or the trustees or the clerk, that's certainly their prerogative. So based on the body language of that conversation, it didn't sound like the initial suggestion was a great one. And so if it's not great, and there was no discussion or negotiation to say what would be a great idea, it's just something to ask the board if that's something that they would consider, because that's all it is would you consider this? It's not it's not a direct ask on my part.
The original proposal was 5 days. So.
Okay. Yeah, but the secondary proposal came from the mayor, so that's why I asked you.
It's just something to consider. And again,
I know the procedure is to have the board vote on it. I'm just asking
Sure.
why you thought it was.
And I was going to address this under communications. Last week, you had mentioned about ordinances. Anyone can draft an ordinance, but it's recommended that you have an attorney review that ordinance to make sure it's constitutionally correct all the time yet, too. So if you took an ordinance and like, say, what Trustee Dalzell presented a few weeks back, and all that was changed were the numbers on that ordinance, certainly someone can ask if the attorney reviewed it, and all that was changed was the numbers. Anyone can draft an ordinance. And by the way, too, you also asked last week about you're all upset at the beginning of the meeting about agendas. This board agreed anyone can put anything on someone else's agenda, including a department head. So the mayor would be no different than a department head in that case yet, too. But you were going on about this not being, I forget the word you used right now, but,
Democracy.
Democracy and everything. Well, the board agreed anybody could put something on anybody's agenda. This whole board agreed to do that. So there's nobody sandbagging anybody. Matter of fact, even something like this, probably, it doesn't always have to be ordinance legislation. This could have been even finance, because it's a finance question at the same time. But it's, again, anyone can put something on, and per the board, the board agreement, anyone can put something on an agenda, and anyone can put an ordinance out there at the same time, too. The board agreed to do that, not me.
If I can just add a comment as well, I think a lot of the focus in the past meetings have been on you, when I think others have reiterated that it's about the position. And the ordinance as it reads now, it's about Section 1 in regards to compensation commencing May 17, 2021. So again, it will come into effect whoever is in office effective that date. And when I think that the way I want to frame this, my own statement in regards to the position increase, of the mayoral position increase, is I thought about 3 filters that came to mind. The first one is pathways to leadership. Are we creating a pathway? Second is qualified candidates. Are we attracting them and retaining them in office as well? There's an opportunity cost to everything that we do, every decision that we make. And we hopefully have the best candidate that holds that office, right, working for the good of Alsip. And also, the third filter is impact. What impact will that person have in our community? And, you know, I'm only 36 years old, and I'm using myself as an example. I'm an Alsip resident, and we don't know who the mayor will be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you know, 30, 40, and so forth. But it's about creating somewhat of a framework so that way people also might consider running for office that might have the skill sets that we need in order to move our community forward. And that's the way I think about the proposed ordinance or salary adjustment for the position that was brought forth by Trustee Del Sal. And those are the filters that I'm looking at this now. And I would be in favor of a increase related to the mayoral position salary based on the three filters that I just mentioned. And hopefully other board members will also focus on stating their statement if they're for or against it versus constantly having to attack an individual and instead address the salary increase for the position. That's all I have to say.
Okay, first of all, there was never, ever an attack on the mayor himself. All right, we've only talked about the position. The only reason I addressed the mayor tonight is because he is the individual that put it on the agenda. That's the only difference. I never asked him about him having a raise for himself. It's always been about the position. I just simply stated that I'm asking Mayor Ryan why he decided that a $5,000 decrease versus just a cost of living raise was why he wanted that.
And you're a board member and you can vote for or against it?
I understand procedure. I already explained that to the mayor. I'm just asking him why he felt that the need for that particular part was on the agenda, or on the ordinance.
Like I said, if the board didn't seem like they were in favor of this, the next best, you know, suggestion I could make to the board was something consummate with the consumer price index, which again, you know, this is when you take what's being suggested here is a $5,000 increase, that breaks down to $2.40 an hour. So, I mean, if the board feels that the position is valued at $2.40 an hour, that is the breakdown you're looking at.
Well, I think one important thing to note on this as well is if there had properly been cost of living increases on the 75, we would now be at 80.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I
We wouldn't
agree.
be having this conversation right now, I don't think.
Right.
And that's something that
In 4
previous administrations probably should have put into an ordinance.
They
years
probably
ago.
should have, and it was something that was that was just missed in the last time the ordinance was done, and so this is rectifying that. But
And the other
going
aspect-
to this new dollar amount is nothing more than cost of living on the previous number.
And we do this routinely when we review the collective bargaining agreements. Any of the contracts come across almost always have additional costs because time moves on. And the unique thing is that by state statute, you can't change the salary during that term. So by doing this, it takes care of those constructs and moves this thing forward at a rate that we're compensating almost all of our employees anyhow. And the mayor's position in this community is a full-time job. Mayor Ryan talked about this $2 and some cent an hour increase. I'm assuming that that's at a 40-hour work week, which I know you don't work, only
Exactly.
40 hours.
Thank you.
Also, last week, Trustee Esparza stated that she did not think the amount was appropriate for trustees. I just was curious to know what she thought might be an appropriate amount for them.
So just to clarify, try to use myself as an example, like to highlight again the position. Like we're talking about the position, and if someone was making a case about, you know, attracting qualified candidates, it can kind of also be applied in regards to a discussion about a position. And I wasn't asking, or nor have I put on, I guess, for requests for officially for a raise. So that's why I used myself as an example to highlight again the dialogue to be centered around a position versus a person. And things that I did read off, I think you made a statement about it, this sounds like you're campaigning or something. No, it's work that I've done. I've actively worked with the finance department to apply for a grant. I've been working, on census outreach and so forth like that. So if it's work, I don't know what other way to say it.
Okay, just to this point, I thought you had mentioned something about a $2,000 something or other, but if you're willing to take that off the table, that's fine. But I would like to point out to Trustee Esparza that she said at the last meeting that she spent some of her own money to do the job of trustee. And just to let you know that there's a way to get reimbursements for those approved expenses, and that she should have been told that during her onboarding with, the rest of us did, by Kent Olivet, the finance director.
It's all personal choice, right? If you wanted to seek reimbursements, you can.
Okay. Just let me know that there is a way to get that.
There is a mechanism out there.
Yes.
Anybody else have a question?
Yeah, I do. So this vote, I understand, is for the next mayor coming in. So the next mayor coming in, what's the pay now? 75,000?
75,000.
75,000. So the next mayor coming in, knowing that he's running and getting paid 75,000, do you really believe that he will only do a better job if there is a raise there? Or is it, it's really sad to say, we don't think that we'll get the most qualified people. I think that the people in the community run, and for example, myself, run to help the community to do a better job within the community. I didn't even know we got a stipend until after I was sworn in. I had no idea. I thought this was all volunteer, just like everything else that I've done. So do you really believe that a pay increase will attract a better person? I would hope that whoever runs for mayor would be a person that cares about the community and the best interest of the community, whatever the pay is.
I would say that's why you've got me here now. You have to have somebody that's engaged, somebody that's passionate about what they do, and somebody that's got to be a great self-starter, because you walk in here every day and you are the number one leader in the community who has to make executive decisions here day after day after day, and put in the hours and the after hours, and this is a 24-hour gig. So to answer your question, you have to be passionate about the job. So. Any other questions? Okay. Let's move on to planning and zoning and licenses. Trustee Juarez.
I have a presentation of a list of licenses dated September 28th, 2020 through October 9th, 2020. That's all.
All right. Any presentations, petitions, or communications? None? Then any unfinished business? Any new business? Then can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. We'll adjourn this meeting at 8:35 p.m. Thank you much, folks, for coming out tonight, and enjoy your night.